Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brennaman.
All right, good morning, a pleasant good Wednesday morning. Another bright, beautiful, sunny day, boys and girls, right here in Hamilton, Ohio. I mean, it's like clockwork around here.
Every single day, the will to live just grows stronger when I set foot in this beautiful town. That's for sure. I was being serious for a second.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we go there.
Right,
we wallow
made it
in this.
35 seconds into the show.
What are you guys talking? He said that it's a beautiful day, and I agreed. I concurred.
You're being facetious.
No, I'm not. You were being
facetious. This is a beautiful town.
This
the
is a
sun's
beautiful
shining.
town.
It always shines.
This is the home of Joe Nuxall.
Correct. The old left-hander.
Today, Tom, there's always something when I drive into this beautiful town, as you mentioned. God. And today, sometimes I've run into this issue before, but there's a row of geese that take over the street over here.
A row of geese?
Yeah, about 30 of them. They march one by one across the road.
That's cool.
And it's cool until you got to get to work. So you got to sit patiently for all the geese to cross the road. And by the 18th goose, I was debating using my 2003 Chevy Impala and just running over them. But I'm not like Casey. I'm not going to do that. I let all the geese peacefully pass the road, and on my way I went.
You left the geese.
Casey, any response before we get to Marty Brennaman on that?
I don't hit animals. I don't hit animals with my car.
No, but you were part of an animal dying at your old school.
Correct.
I was not.
So that's a fact.
That's a fact, Casey.
I was not. This was something that happened like years before I even made it to high school.
Okay.
Happened years before.
Okay.
Blaney was not my fault.
Okay. Lindsay, are you doing well this morning?
Yes, I am.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Before we get to the headlines today, let's just go ahead and get right into it here today. With the Hall of Famer, Marty Brennaman, we're kind enough to have him join us on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Every Wednesday, I mean, he's got to play around with that busy travel schedule of his. I mean, I saw where you put something on X last night that, let's see, in the last 2 weeks, you've made 2 trips to Arizona, and I saw you posted on X with our good friend Jim Day last night that you guys had planned some big soiree again in those highfalutin cities of London and Paris. Is that right?
In December.
Yes, around Christmas time. Yes.
Well, it's well before Christmas. It's the first part of December. We'll be back home by the 17th. So it will be before Christmas, but he and his wife, Stephanie, have never been to Europe. And all I need, Amanda needs, is a reason to go to London. And then we sit down and plan it. And we did that last night. Yeah.
For those that watch Jim Day, you know him very, very, very well. You guys have taken vacations together. You spent a lot of time on the road with Jim Day. We've done that once. Okay, you did that one. That's when he was falling asleep out on the deck of some boat or something, and you were spreading around that picture of him with a boiler and all that kind of thing. But that was really rude what you used to do to him. It was despicable.
I may post it again now that you brought it up. I may post it again.
When you do things like that to him, why does he keep coming back for more, thinking he's going to go somewhere else with you, and you might do the same thing to him in some form or fashion again?
Let me tell you something. I've got more pictures of Jim Day in various poses, most of which are very unflattering, and I will periodically post them. And now that you brought up the one when he was asleep out on that deck overlooking the beautiful bay in St. Thomas, I might post that picture again. That's a great picture, and he doesn't think it is, and he lives in stark terror every morning he wakes up, wondering what I will post, if anything. And I may go 2 months without posting a picture, and all of a sudden, there's one from the past that shows up. And I just go back periodically and collect the pictures again and then determine which one I think is most appropriate for the day in which I plan to post it.
Oh, my God.
That's the way it is.
All right.
And he's threatened with posting pictures of me. I don't care about that. I mean, he's got pictures of me with sleep on a plane with my mouth wide open. I don't care. I could care. I'm the most transparent person.
We had a picture of you in the booth when you were asleep or something like. You took a little cat nap. I don't know if that was in the third and fourth innings or maybe it was right before the game. Just a quick, 10-minute, 15-minute snooze. Everybody needs one of those.
Every now and then. Yeah, I could care less. That doesn't bother me. He's got a picture of me mooning him on the beach.
God.
And Joost Van Dyke, which is one of the smaller islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands. They've got a great beach bar that you can only get to by water. And you come up in a boat and you get out and you walk up on the shore and there the bar is right there on the beach. Is spectacular. And I gave him a quick shot. I think somebody's got a picture of that. Nobody's ever posted. I could care less. Seen one, you've seen them all. Some are bigger than others. Some are smaller. I don't care.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Vin Scully never did it.
No, Vin Scully never did that. No, I don't think Jack Buck did either. I could be Harry Carey, maybe. I don't know, but certainly not Vin Scully.
Ernie Harwell, no.
No chance. No. Nor Kurt Gowdy or Joe Garagiola Sr. or any of the rest of those guys. All Hall of Famers.
No. You can't take yourself too seriously. Go ahead.
Definitely not. That reminds me about the Ford Frick Award and how that whole thing kind of you just made me think of this and how the one guy I think you and I would love to see go in there and certainly has earned his way in there is Tom Hamilton up in Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, that guy is a great broadcaster and has been for a long, long time. I'm hoping he's going to get that call one of these days.
I think Tom Hamilton will get that call within the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know how the voting went, how close it was. They never revealed that. And I'm on that committee to, select the guy that goes in each summer. But he had to be very close this year, I would think. Joe Castiglione is going to go in, and I think Joe's a good broadcaster and a great guy. And but the thing about Hamilton, just like Joe, not only good broadcasters, but also great people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. As I've said all along, I don't care how good an athlete Joe Smith is. What I'm more interested in is what kind of person he is. And Tom Hamilton's a quality person. And I guarantee you one day, and the day will come in the not too distant future when he will win the Frick Award. And by the way, and I think we might have touched on this last week, somebody might have brought it up, about changing the name of that award from Ford Frick to Vin Scully. And that's something, I mean, I don't know why baseball is hesitant. They pause all the time about stuff that I personally think, because I'm in the fraternity, is important. And Ford Frick had nothing to do with broadcasting. He was a commissioner of baseball back in the, I think, late 40s and early 50s. When I was a kid growing up in Virginia in the early 50s, he was a commissioner of baseball. That award should be named after a great broadcaster. And there's no greater broadcaster when it comes to baseball than Vin Scully. So the award should be named after him.
Yep. I couldn't agree with you.
Okay.
And hopefully that's something that somebody hears and looks into discussing. All right, I want to get into a couple things with you real quick from the Reds. What were your reaction? I always loved watching a guy play. I thought he was a gamer. Now, he may not be the same player now that he used to be, but the Reds have brought in, at least in spring training, invitee to Josh Harrison, young man who went to Princeton High School here, University of Cincinnati here. What did you think about that move? I mean, there's no guarantees he'll make the team, but why not, right?
That's another quality person. There's another big-time quality person.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have too many guys. In the relationship that I would have with him periodically when he was in our league with the teams that he played for, he was just first class in every sense of the word. And he's had enough productive years in the major leagues where I don't think the Reds are risking anything at all by bringing him into camp and giving him a legitimate shot, at which I'm sure they will, at making the roster. No, I'm just as I was thrilled with signing Brent Suter Obviously, he's in a stronger position than Josh is because he's going to make the club, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and be a very important person in the bullpen. But Josh Harrison I think it's a great move. I welcome it. I look forward to seeing him when I go back to Arizona for 2 weeks of spring training. I think it's a tremendous move by Nick Krall.
You know, it seems like whether it's Suter, and these aren't. I don't mean to sound like these are charity cases, because they're not. Especially Suter, he's been very productive throughout his whole career. His days have certainly, backed up a little, if you will. But it seems like they're in search, Dad, whether it's Candelario, because I think a lot of people in baseball, and I've heard a lot of conversations more and more here recently as we're getting close to spring training, that kind of scratch their head at why the Reds would sign Candelario with all these other infielders that they have. And I don't want to get into that. The point I'm making is that it seems like they are really searching for some veteran presence in that locker room, knowing Votto's not going to be here anymore. You agree with that?
I think you're 100% correct. I truly do. All you need to do is look at the consistency among the veteran players that they brought in. Going back to what you just mentioned about, and you and I talked a moment ago about how quality Harrison is, how quality Brent Suter is. Everybody says Candelario is top notch as a person and as an influencer in the clubhouse. I don't think there's any question whatsoever that with the knowledge that Votto will no longer be putting on a Reds uniform to play, and the influence, the positive influence he had on so many of these young guys in that clubhouse, I think they need that. I think the moves that the Reds are making, especially Candelario is going to be a part of this come opening day.
Yep.
So I see nothing wrong at all with that. I'm always reminded of, and I talked to somebody about this writing a book the other day about when the club traded Tony Perez after the 1977 season, because Bob Housen called him in and told him, now's the time. We feel like it's time now to play Danny Dreesen at first base. And because you've been such a great player with us, Housen told him, we're giving you the opportunity of staying here with the knowledge that you're not going to play every day, or we will trade you to a club that has a chance of winning, to give you a chance of being on a winning ball club. Tony obviously chose that option and went on to the Montreal Expos. And then come spring training in 1978, I'll never forget Sparky and I in that little cramped office at Al Lopez Field, and I were talking, and he said, this club made a terrible, terrible mistake. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, trading Tony Perez. And I said, well, he's a great player. He said, more importantly than that, it's the influence that he had in that clubhouse. And maybe you can draw some parallels between, looking for a veteran presence or two now, as opposed to the way it was then, because this is a much younger team, maybe more important now than it was then, because that was basically a veteran team.
Yeah, well, which again, it circles you back to ultimately where all of this starts is Joey Votto. I don't think
Correct.
Anybody had a problem in any form or fashion with the team not picking up a $20 million option on him. Nobody had a problem with that. I think there were a lot of people out there that thought, okay, they're not going to pick up the 20. They owed him whatever they owed him, $7, $8, $9 million just to leave. But that maybe they would still consider bringing him back. Do you think that there is any chance whatsoever of that happening? He's not signed with anybody. He was posting pictures on X the other day. He went to the NHL All-Star game, and he's taking pictures with mascots and all. I mean, he's obviously having fun. He's got the full beard going, the whole 9 yards. But, I mean, clearly he wants to play, and he doesn't have a team. Do you think there is any chance that the Reds consider trying to bring him back?
Well, I don't think you never say never.
Yeah.
I try to keep from ever saying that, because I've seen stranger things than this happen when I felt there was not a chance in hell that it would. But you just made the key comment a moment ago leading up to this question, and that is he wants to play. I think, to me, that's the stumbling block here, because I don't think that if they brought him back, he would not get the kind of playing time that would make him happy, because he still thinks that he can be a productive player. Maybe not on an everyday basis, But I think that more than money is the stumbling block in this thing, because I really believe that he would come back here for a pittance compared to $20 million, a pittance compared to even $7 million, which was his walk money. But they simply don't have anywhere for him to play. So at this point right now, barring something unpredictable down the road, I don't think there's any chance that Joey Votto will wear a Reds uniform as a player in 2024.
Okay. Let's the last thing that I'll ask you about baseball-wise in the news, couple of big moves yesterday with Altuve staying in Houston. I think people love seeing that. And Clayton Kershaw staying in Los Angeles, physical pending.
Right.
But, look, those guys have played their whole careers like Votto did until this year in those two towns. And, a lot of times it seems like the fans, get lost with all the players changing teams and trades and free agents and so on and so forth. At least in those two cities, they still got their guy.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of both of those. I would be inclined, Tom, to think that Altuve probably had an opportunity to go somewhere else if he wanted to. I don't know that Kershaw did.
Right.
When Kershaw is going into his 17th year or something like that, they signed him to a contract for 24 with an option, I guess a mutual option in 25. But at the same time, here are two players that have spent their entire lives with one club. And both, certainly in Altuve's case, because I'm a firm believer in the fact he's one of the top 30 or 35 players in baseball. And I can remember, as you can, when he broke in back in 2011 or whatever it was. But it does my heart good to see two guys like that sign contracts to stay where they have always been. And you know that they're both good people, whether you know them or not, because there's never been any information that has been linked to them throughout their careers it would tell you otherwise. So I'm thrilled to death that they're both staying where they've always been. I think it's a wonderful sign. I wish more players would do that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's bounce around the room a little bit today, guys. For the Hall of Famer, Marty Brennaman. Reid, you are always first on the docket.
I am. I always lead off. It's
That's
a
right.
pleasure to always lead off. Listen, Marty, you are a world traveler, and I like to travel myself, but I haven't seen as much of the world as you have. Out of all of your travels, out of all the places you've been, what is, without a doubt, your favorite spot to visit?
Wow.
To go to?
What do you mean, wow? What the hell? That's
a good question. That's a good question. I mean, you've been to a lot of different places.
I'm starting off bad.
As a matter of fact, I'm interested in hearing the answer to this question. So please, forgive me and Reid. I think it's a good question.
All right, well, my favorite country is Italy. My favorite city is where we're going back to in December. It'll be my third time in the last 4 years going to London. I love London. It's the best for me. I could live in London. I can't make that statement about any other city in Europe, but I can say that about London. So that would be it. Italy, the food is incredible. The country is beautiful. The people are great. But there's just something magical as a city. And I've been to Rome and I've been to Athens and been to Florence and been all over Paris. Don't like Paris at all, but I'm going to be forced to go back there on this trip coming up for 2 or 3 days.
Forced to go back. I mean, come on.
I don't care. I don't care about Paris at all. So London would be my favorite city unless I go to some place that I like even better, and I can't imagine where that would be.
I thought you told me you liked not Prague. Was it Prague?
No. I said Budapest was the prettiest city.
I knew it was one of those. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Budapest is the most. There can't be a more beautiful city on this globe than Budapest. One thing that is consistent with all of those countries, the food stinks, except for Italy. The food stinks. In fact, when we went on the river cruise down the Danube last summer, and we stopped at all these places, and that was an incredible trip. I highly recommend that to people. We started in Regensburg, Germany, after spending 2 days in Prague. Prague's a wonderful city. We went down the Danube. We stopped at little towns along the way. We stopped at Vienna, which is one of the greatest cities in the world. I was stunned at what a world-class city Vienna is. I had a gourmet meal there. And that's when I spotted a Five Guys restaurant. Best meal I had the whole time I was on that riverboat. Five Guys.
Oh,
the best.
boy. See, I thought that was a hell
Food's
of a
horrible.
question. That's a hell of a question.
Food is horrible in London. The food is terrible in London. Amanda loves Indian food. Jim's wife, Stephanie, loves Indian food. I detest Indian food. But I ate at an Indian restaurant in London, which I'm looking forward to going back to, the greatest lamb chops I've ever eaten. And so with that, I know I can eat that in an Indian restaurant, but I'm really not a big fan of the food.
See, you ought to do like a travel podcast kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea.
I'm
All
not
right.
interested in doing that.
Casey,
Go ahead. Next
anything
question.
for Mr. Brennaman?
Thanks,
Casey?
Reed. Good question.
Marty,
Casey? Yes, Casey.
I do have one question for you. What happened last night?
I knew it.
What happened? What happened to the Tar
I
Heels
know.
last night?
Believe it. I knew that. I turned the thing on incredibly because Jim and Stephanie came over last night. I forgot the game was on. So I turned it on with about 9 minutes to go in the first half, and they're getting blown out. And I said, here we go again. Here we go again. 2 times in the last 3 games, Georgia Tech beats them. Then they have maybe the best game they played all year long last Saturday against Duke to beat Duke. And then they fall on their faces last night. And as I tweeted, this is a reason why this team won't win the NCAA championship, because they can't play well. They have letdowns. And I blame the coaching staff and I blame the players. And I saw Armando Bacot made a comment, we just weren't ready to play, and that's going to change. I would have screamed at him, son, do you realize this is the 23rd game you people have played this season, and you say you can't be ready to play? I got a problem with that. So I don't know. I tell you what, they got to play at Miami on Saturday. Don't book that as a win, because that's no guarantee either. I get very frustrated. Very frustrated.
You never know it.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got to play Duke again, and they have to go to Virginia. There's some tough games.
Virginia's really playing well, and Virginia is the hottest team in the ACC right now. People have given them up for lost 3 weeks ago, and they have currently stamped themselves as an NCAA tournament team with the way they've been playing lately. Plus, I think they have, for my money, the best coach in the Atlantic Coast Conference to begin with. I think he's the best.
All right, Casey, well done. Lindsay, anything for Mr. Brennaman today? You are becoming more and more a part of the program.
Yes, you are, Lindsay.
So, Lindsay, the last time that Marty was here, you were all over it. Mm-hmm. Are you ready today or no?
I have a question, yeah.
Please do. Go ahead.
I'm curious, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? The 49ers or the Chiefs?
Wow, good.
I think I'm a big Brock Purdy fan. Not that I don't like Patrick Mahomes, I do, but I'm pulling for the San Francisco 49ers to win that game.
Okay.
Is that because Purdy
Lindsay,
was the last guy in the draft picked? I mean, you're rooting for the underdog guy. Is that the reason?
Right. Yeah, he's a good quarterback. I mean, he can play. You're not going to have a team in the Super Bowl that has a bad quarterback to begin with. So you got 2 of the best, but I'm just pulling for San Francisco, and hopefully it'll turn out that way. Can I make a comment to Lindsay?
Well, by all means, you say it right here.
You're asking questions on a weekly basis with me after I have to deal with Dumb and Dumber sitting there. It's like a breath of fresh air.
I'm glad I could help.
Thank you.
Lindsay's on it. All right, well, the back end of Dumb and Dumber.
Hey, Marty, how you doing?
Here we go.
Let's
Talking
go,
about
baby.
the geese at the beginning of the show. You know how many people you had turn off this show in the first 30 seconds when you start talking about those damn geese crossing the road?
Listen, you were ranking your favorite cities in the world. My personal favorite city, and this isn't a shtick.
Norwood.
This isn't a joke. It is Hamilton, Ohio. This is the greatest city in the world where dreams become true. That is what Hamilton is. And every once in a while, there's a row of geese walking along the road. It's just what I complain about. Every once in a while, you're walking the streets and bang, you get hit with a bullet. It's just what happens in Hamilton, Ohio. You just got to get used to it. It's a beautiful town. It's great. But I want to make it very clear. I love this city. It's my favorite city in the whole wide world. That's what I wanted to get clear.
Let me make a point about that. That comment you made a moment ago where dreams come true, you better open up your eyes, son, because it ain't happened for you yet. Go ahead.
That's a good point, Marty. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask one serious question, and then we'll go from there.
That's really cold. By the way.
Cold. That is
really cold.
That is cold for Marty. Marty,
go ahead.
Okay. Here's my serious question for you. There's a lot of hype on this Reds team around Noelvi Marte, Ellie De La Cruz, and Matt McClain. If you had to rank those three players and who's going to have the best season to worst season, how would you rank them?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you. How about that?
That's a good question. I would rate Matt McClain number one. I think Matt McClain, I told someone the other day, of all these kids playing in the infield right now, if I had to pick one of them, barring injury, that's a qualifying statement, he's going to have the best big league career of all of them. Matt McClain would be number one for me. I tell you what, that's tough. 2 and 3 is tough. I would almost say Marte 2 and De La Cruz 3, because De La Cruz struck out 33.8% of the time last year. And until he can show me and everybody else that he can make better contact this season, especially when spring training games get underway, then I feel comfortable about the way I've ranked him. Marte did not have nearly that strikeout ratio. I think he ended the year with 16 or 17 game hitting streak. I'd have to rate him 2 and De La Cruz 3.
Okay, that's good.
How would you rate him?
I would do Noelvi 1. I would do Ellie 2 and Matt McClain 3. That's how I think Noelvi ended the season very, very, very good last year.
Yes, he did.
And I think Ellie, obviously, he ended the year horribly. So I think there's going to be some consistency there with Noelvi. And Matt was hurt, so I think Matt can be just as good, if not better, than those two. But it's close. It's very close.
Yeah.
My next question, Marty. I'd like to formally invite you to my high school's actually honoring me this coming weekend.
What?
They're honoring me. Yeah, they're honoring me. Now
you go to trade school?
No, I went to a high school, and they're going to honor me
I thought
this
it was
weekend.
woodworking. I thought it was,
no woodworking.
Woodworking
I don't work on any wood, Marty. But no, here's what's going to happen. They're going to honor me.
I'm sure you don't.
It's going to be a big ceremony. It's going to be a big ceremony, and I wanted to invite you. Will you come?
I'm going to be in the Caribbean.
Okay. All right. Now, I should let you know that the ceremony is not actually official. It's just me hopping the fence, and I'm going to spray paint my name on the wall. But it's going to be, I'll tell you what, there's going to be dozens of people there, half of them police officers trying to stop me. But they're not going to be able to, Marty. If you want to come with me, you can maybe help me talk my way out of it.
I'm going to say it one more time real slowly.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the Caribbean.
Okay. All right. That's fine. And I got one last question. I got one last question. The Chiefs.
No talk about wood this time. If you don't.
I'm trying. I didn't bring up the wood.
Stay away from that word entirely.
Marty was the one who brought up the wood.
You brought up wood.
He was working on the wood.
He said woodworking. You said you don't work any wood, and he said, "I know that."
Marty, I am not working on wood. I want to make that abundantly clear to you. I have never touched a wood, will never be near any wood.
It'd be a waste of time. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, you said that you're cheering for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, you are. And I find that funny because the Chiefs, as you know, are underdogs, right?
I don't know. I haven't even seen what the point spread was.
It is -2 right now for San Francisco. They are favored by 2 points.
Right. Okay.
So I would argue.
So what's your point?
My point is, Marty, I would argue, and again, when you're an underdog, it lights that fire inside of you. One could say it makes you hungry. Do you think that the hungry dog in this case will run just a little bit faster?
You could argue, was the way you began that sentence, nobody gives a damn what you argue about. But in answer to your question, I think that old wives' adage that you ad nauseum have to work into every one of your questions at least once every week.
At least once.
About that damn hungry dog. Yeah. I could see where that would apply in this situation. Although I think -2, being a 2-point favorite if you're the 49ers, is not that big a deal to begin with. I don't think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all those folks, Travis Kelce and all those people are worried about the fact that they're a 2-point underdog.
Okay, I agree. And that's all I've got, Marty. I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope you have a great day. And also, I love you, and have a great day.
Good luck on that graduation party.
Thank you. The police will be there.
I'm sure they will.
All right. I know you got places to be and people to see, so you're on your way down to the – I mean, golly day, we talked about Arizona. We talked about this big trip in December, and now you drop on us the Caribbean. It's pretty big league.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to some warm weather. I'm tired of this cold weather.
Yeah. It must have been cold in Arizona the 2 times you've been out there.
No, it was hey, by the way, I will mention this to you because you lived out there for a decade. They average 9 inches of rain every year.
I didn't think it was that much. Really? Is it that much? Okay.
Well, it is.
Okay.
They had a third of that in 13 hours while we were there.
Yeah.
They had 3 inches Thursday into Friday morning. And I mean, it rained like I've never seen it rain in Scottsdale, Phoenix, that area.
But you were out on that golf course.
I played Thursday at the we played both courses at the Camelback Golf venue on Thursday and Friday. Played both days. Yeah,
that's that
had a good time.
Highfalutin place, no doubt.
Very nice. It's right there on Lincoln Road.
Randy Johnson lives out there. I mean, that's highfalutin hood there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out well for me.
Good. All right. Well, safe travels. We love you, and
love you too, pal.
Your granddaughter is still about
6 hours away.
6 hours away from landing in Sydney, Australia. But she was fine getting on the plane last night.
I figure sometime between 4:15 and 4:30 our time, she will land in Sydney, Australia.
Okay. All right. We saw
but
your
you
boy
talked to her
last
night, and she's good, right?
Yeah, she's good. And we saw your boy last night. Saw Lukey, took him out to dinner right there in Bloomington. So he's doing good.
God bless you.
Hey, that's right.
He's
all right.
Quite a young man.
Yeah,
all right.
Just ask him. Okay.
Good talking with you guys.
See you. All right.
Take care.
Marty.
All right.
Good
There he is. Hall of Famer, boys and girls.
How about that?
That was walking that fine line there, Reed.
Fine
line.
That's the hardest I've laughed.
I don't know what you guys were laughing about.
I had tears coming out of my eyes. I was laughing so hard. Marty's sharp as a tack. He is sharp as a tack. He got. There's some zingers in there. He got you good a couple.
I wanted to bring up with him because they're having, the weatherman at Channel 9, Steve Raleigh.
Yes.
Okay, he's a West Side guy.
Yes.
I used to work. He is married to Simon Leese's daughter. Cy Lease, long time, right? Legendary figure in this town who's still with us. Anyway, Steve and his wife had a daughter, Maddie, that committed suicide a couple of years ago. And they had started this Maddie Raleigh Foundation. And so they want to raise money for this. So they are having a roast for my dad at the end of this month down at Music Hall.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, some of the people that are coming in there to be some of the roasters, it's going to be an incredible night. And I'm sure tickets are still available, and it goes to a great cause. I think it's called the Maddie, M-A-D-I Foundation. I'll find that out for sure when we get to a break if you're interested in going. But it's going to be a great night. But the point I'm making is that nobody on the planet can throw out the zingers better than him. There is not Marty.
Yeah,
there is not a human being alive, and trust me when I tell you, because I've listened to it for 60 years. Nobody can throw out the heat more than he can throw out the heat. And he has to do everything he can to tame himself from a language standpoint when he is off the bench. Because it could get very ugly. And I thought we were right up against drifting right there for a second.
It was. Listen, you've been around him much more than I get to spend 30 minutes with him a week, and it impresses me how sharp he is, and he can sling him. He can sling him.
That's why I love it. And this Ever just brought it up in the chat, and I think it's important for everybody to know. When I sit up here and act like a clown, It's for the betterment of this program.
That's right.
I have to take the strays from Marty. I have to. When he's making fun of Wood, I got to start making jokes about it. And he's, like Reid just said, he's sharp. He's sharp. And he comes down on me with the people's elbow, and he just drives me into the ground with his insults. And I love it. I'm a better man for it. So thank you, Marty. Well, I don't know if I'll go with I've seen some of the people that are going to the roast. I believe some of the people from that radio station I used to work at are going too.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, maybe I can go. Maybe I can roast them a little bit. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Maybe if you know what I might do? Maybe before the show starts, like outside in the parking lot, maybe I'll throw a roast at them then when nobody's watching.
I got a phone call yesterday without name dropping, but I'm going to name drop because I just like him so much, and he's been a good friend especially over these last few years. So Bob Costas calls me yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, listen," he said, "I can't be there at the roast. I was invited to the roast. I can't come. I have a prior commitment." He says, "But, I'm doing this thing for the roast." He says, "I don't want to get into it with you because I don't want to tip anybody off on what it might be, whatever it might be. But," he says, "I just want to make sure I understand a couple of things to make sure I've got them right." And knowing Bob Costas, the way he can deliver once he figures out what it is, it's going to bring my dad to his knees. To his knees. All right. We got lots to get to today. We never got to the monologue, so let's do that right now. The countdown to the Super Bowl. It is on right now. That's this Sunday, as we know. The AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs take on the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Beating the Niners would make the Chiefs the first Super Bowl repeat winner in 20 years. Yesterday, a lot of questions for Andy Reid. I don't know where these came from, but a lot yesterday in his press conference about, is he going to retire after this game? And Reid reflected back on some long story his dad and mom used to tell him all the time. You know when it's time, it's time. And he says now is not the time. He is ready to go for this Sunday. For the 49ers, meanwhile, did you see some of the comments? You never see this anymore, or at least you never see it made public anymore. The comments made by their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, he called out his team apparently in their weekly film session after watching last week's championship game against Detroit. And he said his team was disgusting. It was unacceptable that they had guys not even playing hard. And he said that's something you can't coach. He's called them on the mat. That's calling guys out now. Week of the Super Bowl?
No doubt. Biggest game of their lives.
That's big-time stuff, man. Those guys don't exist much anymore. So while you still got them around, let's enjoy them. Meanwhile, Reid's guy, Jim Harbaugh.
That is my guy.
He's busy building his staff in L.A. Yesterday, he named his defensive coordinator. Comes from Michigan, Jesse Mentor, son of longtime former UC head coach Rick Mentor. Jesse was a DC at Michigan, the new DC with the Chargers. The team is expected to hire Casey, your guy, Greg Roman, as its offensive coordinator later today.
That's right. I thought for sure the Bears would have hired Greg Roman after they did an interview with him, but I guess that fell through, and we'll see what it looks like with Justin Herbert. I don't see where the scheme matches with that, but maybe they're wanting to be more run committed next year. So
well, and I would bet on that because Roman worked with Harbaugh when he was at Stanford, went from Stanford to the 49ers with him, and the 49ers finished in the top 3, 4, 5 in the league in rushing every year that he was there. College basketball, the Xavier Musketeers 12-10 on the year. Look for their third straight win tonight as Villanova comes to town. It's a 7 o'clock tip on FS1. The Wildcats are also 12-10 and ended a 4-game losing streak over the weekend with a win over Providence. Speaking of Xavier, I know this happened 2 days ago. I must have missed it yesterday, and maybe you guys talked about it. But did you see the news about Jerome Hunter? This was, remember now, this was a kid who most people felt like was coming back and would have been Xavier's best player on their team this year, right? Fremantle got hurt. Hunter was diagnosed with some kind of cardiac ailment. So he had heart surgery, okay? So they had already deemed him out for the year. Plans on coming back next year. Once he cleared some of the cardiac issues, he has started to practice more and more and more and more, and now is actually on the scout team in practice every day. Monday, he ruptures his Achilles tendon. The rehab is expected to be 6 months. We wish this young man well. That's a rough couple of years. Last night, we talked about it a minute ago, 3 days after drilling Duke, number 3 North Carolina lost at home to Clemson, 80-76. But think about this for a minute. The Tigers, the first 59 times they went to play basketball on the campus of the University of North Carolina, 59 consecutive years, they lost every single time. That is almost impossible, but it happened. They got their first win ever there 3 years ago, and they beat them last night. Now, normally, who cares about that game, right? But this is the kind of win that could hurt UC's chances of getting in the tournament. The Cats and the Tigers have very similar resumes of getting in the big dance, at least where we sit right now. A lot of season left to play. It's a huge win for Clemson. UC has its chance for a marquee win. That's this Saturday. Number 5, Houston comes to Fifth Third Arena, and Houston beat Oklahoma State last night. Kentucky ends a 2-game losing streak, 109-77 over Vanderbilt. Wildcats shoot 55% from the field, and they hit 15 3-pointers. One other note, by the way, found this really interesting. In the Big 12 last night, Texas Tech, who UC beat over the weekend, lost at Baylor. Now, normally, who cares? No big deal. Everybody loses at Baylor, right? Our good friend Chad Brendel, did you see this little nugget he sent out today?
I did.
Now, I find this very interesting, and it may not mean a damn thing, right? But he made the point that every opponent that has played UC in the Big 12 this year, the very next game they play, they're a combined 0-9.
How about that?
Does that mean they're getting beat up by the Cats?
I think they're getting beat up, worn down by the Bearcats. I think that's what's happening. Bearcats, I believe they rank 16th in the country in defense, and I think they are relentless.
And they got to be at least a top 15 rebounding team in the country,
I think they
right?
have to be. I don't know that number.
They're the leading rebounding team in the Big 12. So if you're number 1 in the Big 12, you got to be somewhere close to the top nationally.
I think when you play UC, it's a war. And there's no, unfortunately, if you're in the Big 12, there's no time to recuperate. It's you got to go. You got to go right now. Mm-hmm. And UC wears these guys down. I love it.
Do you take any victories from the fact that happens? Like
there he goes. Out from under the bridge. Out from under the bridge. Yeah, I'll take a moral victory in all of them.
What did you say?
Good.
He's talking about moral victory. He's making fun of me.
UC leads the league and leads the country in moral victories, really. Something to feel good about. After you play them, they lose.
Mouse Cop's all about moral victories. He's a big Xavier guy, though, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mouse Cop?
Yes. He's a big Jerome Hunter guy.
Big Jerome Hunter guy.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's this, and I've tried to get a couple of people that really understand the nuts and bolts of this on the show today, and both of them, neither one can join us because it came down the pike so late. But I know everybody saw this. Some of you brought it up in the chat. So you got Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers is now the parent company of Turner. So that means TNT, True TV, that has all of that NCAA basketball stuff, right? The three of them announced last night they are launching a streaming platform this fall that will include offerings from at least 15 networks and all 4 major professional sports leagues, not even to mention all of the college sports. They're saying it's a one-stop shop app where you can view most sports, and most fans are going to be excited by this because, you got to pay for Peacock here, and you got to pay for that there, and you got to pay for this ESPN Plus there, right? They're putting them all under this platform, and that'll include games from the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR, college sports, the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournament, golf, tennis, FIFA, World Cup, all this stuff at one place. So, and we've already talked about the baseball signing, so we'll leave them alone, about Altuve and Kershaw. I wish, because we were sitting around here talking about this, everybody, before the show went on today. I wish I understood more. And look, they didn't in the press release give you a lot of information, so it's no surprise I don't know it. No surprise most people don't know it. About exactly how this is going to work. Because, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I have in our house, for a long time we had DirecTV. Right? We got rid of that. YouTube is cheaper, and they had everything we really wanted to see.
Correct.
Okay? And it had less issues than a satellite and bad weather blowing a thing out. But I'm sitting here wondering, what is that going to look like? So let's just compare it to Netflix. Okay? Because it's just going to have an app. It's going to have a name. You download it. You pay for it, whatever that means. Does that mean from now on that if I want to watch, let's just say, since ESPN's part of this, let's say that, or say FS1, let's use tonight for example. Xavier playing against Villanova, that's on FS1.
Right. Yep.
Okay? Is the only way I'm going to be able to watch that game is to buy that app?
No,
or would you still be able to watch, would FS1 still be on YouTube?
They would still have to honor those contracts that they have with their cable company. So yeah, it will be on YouTube. It will be on whatever cable you have that has FS1 on it. But you could also see it via this new app. Now the interesting thing is what happens after those deals go kaput, right? What happens if FS1, Fox has a deal with YouTube TV that expires in 2026? It used to be that YouTube TV could gouge these people. Like, listen, this is the price to be whatever. Now they can go, hey, we've got our own platform. We don't need to be on YouTube TV anymore. And in 3-4 years, you might see the only place to get this is on this media app. But for the time being, not much will change other than that you could go to this one-stop shop to see all of this sports content. It will be interesting to see Fox and ESPN under the same roof, though.
Well, yeah, it's third. That's the ownership on this thing. And these are people who are very bitter rivals, especially ESPN and Fox. I mean, I don't know so much about, the other group, but there has been a serious rivalry, obviously, between those two companies for rights and going after rights and all this kind of thing for all the sports across the board, including the college stuff. But, I think collectively they all realize that as the rights fees continue to just explode. I mean, the rights to the NFL, you're talking billions of dollars that Fox is paying, that NBC is paying, that CBS is paying, right? And now all of a sudden you started to see recently, whether it's with the MLS, and here comes Apple, the one game a week on Amazon for the NFL. Whatever it may be, and Netflix has flirted around with some of this stuff. They have the money because of the subscription fees just pouring in. And so now all of a sudden these three guys, I think it's absolutely brilliant what they're doing.
Could we see the government step in and say this can't happen? Because if you think about it, if they put all of sports media under one umbrella, that's a monopoly. We saw this exact same thing. Disney bought Fox a couple years ago. Disney bought the rights to. They wanted to buy all of Fox, but the government said you can't take Fox Sports, you can't take Fox News because then you'll have a monopoly over everything. You can have all their IPs, all their shows like Fox, all their cable television shows and all that stuff, all their movie properties and everything like that. But you cannot have sports and news. So I wonder if the government might step in and say, hey, this is now slowly becoming a monopoly. I don't know.
I don't understand how any of it works. We were having a talk about this at my house the other day. My dad was like, "Yeah, so are we going to keep paying for cable? What's the plan here?" And I don't know what to say anymore because at some point I would like all of these things to be at least sports. Because if we're going to be honest, if you have cable, and maybe people have it and they're not sports people, but the only reason my family has cable is because of sports. Mm-hmm. If they're going to do this now, then I guess we just do that. But again, it's so confusing to me because there's so many other things. Like so we'll still have Amazon football on Thursdays. So Peacock will be under this new thing or no?
I don't
Like
know
the
if
Peacock.
Peacock will not be under
I was
this.
going to say,
Will not be. Okay, so
Peacock's
No,
over
none
NBC.
of the stuff on CBS or NBC would fall under this umbrella. It is primarily what we know as Turner. So you got a lot of basketball, NBA especially there,
TNT,
TBS,
TBS.
True TV when they get to the tournament. All the stuff that ESPN has, whether it's ESPNU, ESPN Plus, ESPN2,
All of
ESPN
Disney.
News,
ABC.
You've got ABC under there. You've got Fox. You've got not Fox News. They're not a part of any of this. They're in a whole different category altogether. Along with the but also under this thing is Big Ten Network, FS1, FS2. So right now, and I mean hell, it's so daunting and confusing. All of this stuff started. Nick Kirby points this out, and I was thinking the same thing. You know, all of this has been going on for a number of years where people wanted the idea of a la carte, right? They wanted to get rid of their cable entirety because they're only watching maybe 7 channels, to back up what you're saying.
Right.
Right?
They're tired of cable gouging them.
That's right. And so they're saying, okay, I want to be able to pick station 1, 5, 7, 11, 17, 27, and I just want to pay for those. We're getting closer and closer to that, and it's going to be interesting to see whether that is something at the end of the day is really good for the consumer.
Well, it's funny because, we started doing the a la carte thing, right? You pay for these certain, I just want to pay for Peacock. That's all the NBC stuff. Or I just want to pay for these channels and these channels. And they've decided, hey, why not put all the stuff a la carte? Let's put it all together. And it feels like we've just gone in one big circle back to cable, just now streaming. As I will admit, the competitor in me, like the competitiveness of me, likes that this is now going to basically cable, but it's streaming, because for years I've been on YouTube TV for 7 years now. 7 years I've been using YouTube TV, and since I've had it, people that have cable have sat in their ivory towers and going, "Oh, you guys are 30 seconds behind us." You streamers, you big dummies, why are you streaming? We got cable, we're better than you. And we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And now it's just coming all back down. Now you got to stream everything. Now you got to stream everything.
It's nonsense. This is all nonsense. I wish it was simpler, if I'm going to be honest.
But doesn't this simplify it, though? I mean, really?
It doesn't, though, because if we're still doing sports on Amazon and Peacock and Paramount Plus.
Yeah, good point.
If you're doing it all on everything there, it still doesn't change anything. If the only way to change is to have it literally all of them. I want CBS, I want NBC, I want Fox, I want everything on the same platform, on the same streaming device. I'll pay $25 a month and we'll call it cable. It's the same exact thing. That's what I would want. Because if you do this, I imagine this will be $20 a month. You're adding on $10, $11 a month for Peacock, $12 if you want the no ads or whatever that is. Amazon's an additional whatever, $11, $20. I don't know how much Amazon is. But yeah, it's eventually it just gets tired, and this seems tired. So maybe it will simplify it for a lot of people. But for me, I guess the answer is just to keep the cable, because I'll still need NBC, I'll still need CBS.
Nothing will change in the short time.
No,
like until these media rights, till their deals change, nothing's going to change significantly, other than the people that do the a la carte things. Now it's kind of become all centralized for all those things. So that has changed. But like if it's still going to be on cable for the time being. At least I assume.
Yeah, I assume too, but I mean there are a lot of details and a lot of questions that still need to be answered that have not been. I mean, this was just a statement. It was a release made by these 3 companies at the same time. They had quotes from each of the heads of the different networks. And so, the real nitty-gritty in all this, we're going to learn how this is going to play out probably in the next 72 hours, and even some of that is going to be theoretical. I mean, this might happen, that might happen. We got this deal that runs out, another deal that runs out in that time frame, 3 years here, 4 years there, 9 years there. There's so many things at play here. But theoretically, it sounds like a good idea. We'll see until we know the price tag. I mean, you just threw out 20. I'm willing to bet, is ESPN Plus $12 a month?
Yeah, it's about that.
All right, if it's 12, I can promise you this is at least double or triple that.
Well,
because you're getting more than 10 times, really, the amount of content.
100%.
So, I mean, this ain't going to be cheap.
Well, it's going to be cheaper than what you're doing right at this current moment, which is all the you're getting all those places together for probably a cheaper price than individualized, right? You're basically getting a value deal here on all these things. As I said, it's kind of funny that we've circled back to basically what cable is. Like we've gone in a full loop. Now we're on back. I am interested to see if there is some hearings or like some gripe that the U.S. government has with this possibly being a monopoly, because what will happen is if they let it go through, and this is the one spot that you can watch all of your sports at some point, right? As I've said, nothing's going to change. They're still going to send it through cable, all that stuff. If they get together and power together, then they can act as a monopoly and they can charge whatever the heck they want, because where else the heck are you going to watch it, right?
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have it. So I wonder if the government will step in and say, all right, you can't do this. You guys got to be competing against one another.
The question is, would Spectrum be able to get it in this studio? That's the question.
0 chance. 0.0 chance.
All right, let's take a break. We got lots to get to today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Xavier game coming up tonight. Yeah. And a few other topics kind of on the table. I know you guys got into yesterday a little bit about this Dartmouth thing and about their players are now, and then Rick Pitino's subsequent. I mean, Pitino's just letting it all out there.
Yeah.
You can like the
He's got
guy,
nothing
hate
to
the
lose.
guy. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I don't have opinion on the guy one way or the other, except for he's a hell of a coach. And the team that ought to hire him is Ohio State. But he's talking about salary caps in college basketball. Salary caps. Maybe he's on to something. We'll talk about that. Casey, take it away, young man. Here we go.
I gotcha. The Encore Technologies report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with the suite of services from mobile computing, desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Pro?
Duct?
Activity.
productivity.
We're doing a syllable thing.
Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And now I got to tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pahhni water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pahhni Water at PAHHNIwater.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. Get your coffee from UDF, switch it down with some Pahhni water, and get your technology solutions from Encore.tech. Also, if you are liking the show, if you're enjoying the stream, give us a like button. Hit it. Hit it for me.
Were you asking, or were you telling them they need to like the stream?
If you're enjoying it, don't forget to hit the like button.
I thought you were being an alpha there, like the stream. I thought you were being an alpha. Alpha.
I mean, they
Casey
would
the alpha.
I mean, they would be alphas if they hit the like button.
That's true. Alpha mindset is when you hit the like button on our stream.
Alpha brain. What's that stuff that what is that? Joe Rogan sells alpha brain or whatever? Like,
Does
that
he?
sounds like a scam.
That is a scam. Is
Yeah.
that real? Is he selling that?
Yeah.
And people bought what is it?
Makes you smarter.
Okay.
Pill that makes you smarter.
That's good.
As you know, those
exist.
Those
And
exist.
they work. And those exist and they work great. I've had a couple
called
of them.
Adderall.
That's true. Outside of that, what do we got? Anything else to promote here today?
Nope, we have box lunch coming up after the
box
show.
box lunch. We're gonna play a game in box lunch. So
Yep. We've kind of flying by the seat of our pants this week, but yeah, we'll have more member stuff tomorrow. You have the members tennis match coming out early next week. Obviously, the Cats don't play this week, so there's no Chatterbox Cats. They play this weekend. But yeah, pretty much that settles all the things that we got. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, tune in to Chatterbox Bets. Shout out to Casey. Casey, round of applause for Casey here. We're gonna tell a little story about Casey's gambling. He took my pick.
yeah,
Indiana Hoosiers plus 5.5. Why are you saying damn it?
because I don't have a lot for box lunch, and that was like the whole thing. That was gonna be the whole box lunch.
Oh, well, we'll let the members see it. All right, we'll tease it. Casey had a big win gambling last night. Casey, any thoughts?
Casey also saw a bullet yesterday.
Yeah, though that is something I did want to bring up maybe on box lunch. But since we are going to be talking about the gambling thing, I'm going to bring up what I saw yesterday in our parking lot, which was just 5 bullets, not fired.
What?
Some of them fired, just laying on the ground in our parking lot.
Across the street?
Yeah, where we park. There's just bullets littered everywhere, Tom.
Shells?
Yeah. Some
Tom.
not fired and some fired.
Tom, here's the thing about Hamilton.
Elliot, what the hell's going on?
Time out. Guys,
I mean, this is serious stuff, man. We're talking about, basketball. I mean, now we're talking about life.
Here's
Life
the
and
thing
death.
about live ammunition being on the streets here in Hamilton. This city has a few nicknames. The City of Sculpture, Little Chicago.
Yep.
One thing that I like to call it, and really people that are from here in Hamilton like to call it, is Constitution City. And the reason they say this is because when they gave us the Bill of Rights, when they gave us our first 10 rights as citizens of America, the second one was the right to bear arms.
That's exactly right.
And we practice that right here regularly.
Right.
In the city that is known as Hamilton. Free speech, right to bear arms. Don't even if you're a member of the Army, don't even try to come in my house. I'll practice the Third Amendment too. You will not be able to be quartered in my house. Absolutely not.
Good reference.
So we'll do them all. We got all the Bill of Rights, all the amendments. This is Constitution City.
That's right.
Were they still out there this morning, Casey?
I did not check.
Or did somebody clean up the crime scene?
I need to go back out there and check because I picked some of them up and put them on the sidewalk so I could take a picture of them so I wouldn't just be so you guys would believe me that there's just ammo littered everywhere out there. But
don't touch it because that's definitely an active crime scene.
I mean, we're right. For those of you that don't know, that have not been to Hamilton, many of you have, and you know the layout. I mean, it's really nice right here in this little neighborhood we're in, and right at the start of downtown Hamilton.
There's 17 neighborhoods in Hamilton. This is known as the Central Business District.
Okay, we're right in it. And so, every morning you pull in here, there are people that are hardworking, going to work every single day, number of buildings in and around, including this building. Look, you go to a concert, there are bullets that rain down from the sky, somebody gets hit, stuff happens. But when you're talking about coming into work every day.
It's a different story.
In the parking lot where you park your car.
I don't even understand how it happens, Tom. And I guess this is just one of those things where you got to bring an umbrella of Kevlar because that's the only way you're going to survive in this town. Because you never know when a bullet's going to drop on you next. And I guess that's what we do here.
It is so disrespectful to the Constitution that your guy James Madison wrote that that you guys are looking down upon a city that likes to practice the Second Amendment.
I am all in on the Second Amendment.
That's all I'm saying.
What about gunfire left and right whenever you walk down the street, Tom? You like that?
It says the right
maybe
to
not
bear
that
arms.
so much.
I think there perhaps was a duel in our parking lot. A good old-fashioned duel.
Aaron Burr versus
a gang
Alexander
war?
Hamilton?
That's right, exactly.
Turf war?
I think it was exactly that, and I think some of them, maybe a body was taken away from the scene. I don't know what happened.
The statue in the middle of High Street isn't very accurate to what Alexander Hamilton looked like in that duel. It's more of him on his back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Swaggy Plague wants to know if Lawnmower Man has to stay strapped.
100%.
Listen, if
100%.
in all honesty, if there was betting odds on whether Lawnmower Man stays strapped, they'd be minus 500 because I guarantee that guy's got some arms.
No doubt about it.
Nobody's taking his lawnmower.
But we are all for the Second Amendment around here. So, look, if people got to load their guns or unload their guns out in the parking lot across the street, so be it. As long as they're not hurting anybody, not bothering anybody, that's okay. No problem.
There is. I lived on Main Street, which is right across the river, literally not even a mile away from here. And for as much as I love Hamilton, when I look back at my time living there, my car got broken into about 4 times. One time somebody stole our boss's Sean's car and actually dropped it off in the parking lot in which I live, which looks terribly suspicious for a guy named Rita Rue. Looks terribly suspicious for me. And the other time was one time we had this back patio, and it had a gate, and there was this homeless man that was very drunk, and he showed up, and we're just hanging out in the backyard, and he just opens up the gate, and there's a walkway up to my apartment. He opens up the gate, and I'm sitting in the backyard grilling food, and he starts walking up the stairs to go, there's literally the stairs only go to the door of my apartment, and I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he just starts meandering up there. And I said, hey, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to go home. I was like, you don't live there? And he goes, oh, I don't? Okay. And he walks out of the gate and never saw him again.
All right.
He found his way.
He found his way home. He found his way home. All right.
Or he didn't.
Or he didn't. That's okay.
Probably
That's
didn't.
all right. We certainly hope and pray he did. All right, let's start with Xavier basketball tonight, okay? Now, I was looking up some of and I brought up the whole Clemson thing. And see, this is the same thing for teams like Xavier, okay? There are a whole host of those teams in, say, like the net rankings or the Ken Palm, right, where we all know about the automatic bids for the tournament, and then you have X number of at-large bids that go out if you're not your conference champion or conference tournament champion. And most people feel like the Big 12 will undeniably, unquestionably, get as many as 9 teams in the NCAA tournament, if not more than that. And I think everybody would agree on paper that all 9 of those, whoever it is you choose, all of them are NCAA-worthy teams. I mean, they've had big wins. You know, UC hasn't had a loss in the conference this year by more than 5 points. I think a lot of us were wondering when they joined this league, we saw what happened in football. A lot of us wondered when we joined this league, oh, man, this is going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. They're 4-5, and they have not lost a single game, including to Oklahoma or Texas or at Kansas. They've not lost a single game by more than 5 points. But, you fall on these quad 1 wins. Did you have some really bad losses in the whole West Virginia thing here recently? As we're getting now to the last 5 weeks of the regular season, 4 weeks of the regular season, teams like Clemson are the ones, your team has to keep on winning. You see Xavier, to have any hope, you got to keep on winning. And you need that marquee win, okay? Or 2 or 3. But when teams like Clemson, and there are a lot of Clemsons and Cincinnati's and Xavier's out there, you're not rooting for these upsets to happen, like them beating North Carolina last night.
No.
You're trying. Well, I was just gonna say, again, you don't want to scoreboard watch exactly yet. You see, and pretty much anybody that's on the bubble, near the bubble, around the bubble, still controls their own destiny.
Correct.
But saying that, Tom is right. Any bubble team that wins is bad for you. So. Yeah, I think if you take care of business, if Xavier takes care of business tonight against Providence, they keep their hopes alive, and any bubble team that wins is not on their concern. It's all in the rearview mirror, not up to them yet.
Play Villanova. But, yeah, they
what did I say?
Providence.
Sorry, Villanova.
Yeah, Villanova just lost to Providence. These are 2 teams that if you look at – like, this is a game I think we all know where we're getting to the point of the year where Xavier just needs to keep winning. They have a win-loss that they have to get to. I've seen that if they get to 18 wins and then win a game in the Big East, that's a pretty good resume. As long as you get one of those marquee games against a Creighton, against a Marquette. They play Marquette twice. But you're right. I mean, I'm not worried about the scoreboard watch, and I'm not worried about the other bubble teams because, like Elliot said, like we know, with a month left in the season and when you play in a big conference like the Big East, you can still take care. I mean, if Xavier wins out, they're not only looking at being in the tournament, they're looking at getting a pretty nice seed. They're going to be ranked, all those nice things that come along with a great winning streak. So you don't worry about the periphery just quite yet. But this is a game that Xavier needs to win. You're at home. You're playing a Villanova team that you had a chance to beat last time. You had 2 looks at the basket on a buzzer beater. Des Claude couldn't finish. That was in Philadelphia. Villanova, though they got a win over the last weekend, on a 4-game lose streak, right?
Yep.
Losing streak, so they've lost 4 out of their last 5. They're not playing their best basketball. Xavier takes pride in playing at home. This is kind of the team that Xavier can't get over the hump on because of Villanova when Jay Wright was there, where it was so, they were the best team in the country, won a couple of national championships. And even in the years after that, it's not been very easy for Xavier to beat Villanova, but these are games that you have to win. You got to win at home. You got to win at home if you want to be a serious bubble team. If you want to make the tournament, I think I'm looking at it right now. Villanova's 45th in the net ranking. Xavier's 47th, 48th right now. So this isn't a quad 1 game. This is a quad 2 game. But It's as simple as that. These are games you have to win. You got to win the games you're supposed to win, and they're favored by 3.5 points.
You know, I've said many times on the show before, I have tremendous respect for anybody who puts in the very hard work, whether it's, macro, a lot of different things, or just really zeroes in on one thing. And in this case, that's Joe Lunardi in bracketology on ESPN.
Yeah.
I mean, he works his tail off. And he seems like a good dude. I don't know. He might be the greatest jerk in the world. I have no idea. But he comes across on television as being a really likable guy.
Yeah.
Okay, and whether you agree with his stuff or don't agree, look, that's your choice. But, what has started to happen here, and I find it so interesting because I am guilty of this, we are guilty of this on this show, of talking how great the Big 12 is, how great the Big East is. Now, due to where we are geographically, I don't think, and we talk about how great the Big 10 is. The Big 10 may not have that team after Purdue that you look at as like a juggernaut. But I know one thing, you don't want to play most of those teams on any given night. You just don't want to play them. You don't want to play Wisconsin. There are some good teams in that league. Maybe not great, but good. But here's what I'm getting at. Okay, as this season has gone on, Lunardi in his latest bracketology update, which was yesterday, he has the Mountain West Conference getting 5 teams in the NCAA tournament. The Mountain West. That's more than the Pac-12 and the West Coast Conference combined. Okay? You're also seeing the SEC all of a sudden. Teams moving way up. So, like, for example, if you're getting down to your final, let's say, 16 teams that are going to get in, whether it's the ones that are going to play in Dayton, to start the tournament, or the ones that that will play in the official opening round the next go round. Yesterday, he had the last 4 byes. Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Virginia's playing well lately. The last 4 in, meaning they'll play in Dayton, against a 16 seed, technically. You have Florida, Butler, Washington State, and Seton Hall. So of that 8, you have 4 teams from the Southeastern Conference. You have 2 from the Big East, 1 the ACC, and 1 from the Pac-12, as we know it today. They won't be Washington State in the Pac-12 starting next year. But then when you start looking at the first 4 out, St. John's, Big East. Cincinnati, Big 12. Colorado, there, Wake Forest, ACC. You've got Villanova in that discussion. Providence in that discussion. I'm just wondering, Texas, a school like Texas, they're nowhere in here. Not even on that fringe.
No.
Do people honestly believe that playing in the SEC compared to the Big 12 or the SEC, or the Big 12 or Big East compared to the Mountain West Conference?
The thing about the Mountain West, and Paul, if you remember this last year, Paul was very high on the Mountain West. They're slowly becoming a very, very good basketball conference. And 2 years ago, I think 4 teams from the Mountain West made the tournament. I don't think a single one of those teams got a win. Last year, I believe 4 teams make the tournament, and I believe maybe even 5. Out of those teams, only one won a tournament game. But that one team, of course, was San Diego State that made it all the way to the Final Four. Did they make it to the championship
game?
Yeah, they made it to the championship game.
Yep.
So they made it all the way there. The Mountain West is certainly really good. I talk a lot about all these conferences, and you talked about the Big Ten. The Big Ten, when it comes to this tournament stuff, for years have gotten 7, 8 teams in the tournament. And every year, the Big Ten doesn't do anything in the tournament. Like, the best teams, they're really the only team that has had a lot of success in the tournament is Michigan State. And then there was those years where Michigan made the Final Four a couple of times.
Yep.
Other than that, Purdue, we always talk about how good Purdue is. They haven't done anything in the tournament. Illinois, that one year where they were really good, didn't do anything in the tournament.
Yep.
Even teams like Ohio State that were like 2
Yep.
seeds, 3 seeds, they don't do a whole lot. So the Big Ten, I'm kind of wishy-washy on. The Big 12 is undoubtedly the best conference in college basketball, Tom. But I think that there is some of we see this in football. You know, you and I have gone at it a few times talking about the SEC, and you make the point with that, and I think it's valid, that teams get ranked because they're in the SEC. Not because of the team they are, but because of the panache that comes with playing in the Southeastern Conference. I think that happens in the Big 12 with basketball. I think if a team like, we'll take a team like Texas. If a team like Seton Hall has the exact same resume as Texas, Texas will get ranked, Seton Hall will not. And I don't think anything more than that. It's just because the conference you play. Once again, I think the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, but I think there is some favoring done for a big name and those big brands.
We did it yesterday with UC. UC and Kentucky have pretty much the same resume as Tom. And obviously Kentucky is ranked. They're supposed to be a 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah, top 10 in the country.
UC has more ranked wins than them. They have a better defensive rating than them. Everything's similar. It's just Kentucky's supposed to be a bona fide tournament team, and UC's barely going to get in.
Right.
That's the difference, and that just goes to Reid's point that the Blue Bloods or teams that play in Conference X, being the Big 12 maybe, they are certainly given advantages that other teams, other schools are not given. And I think that's a fundamental problem with probably college sports in general, is because there are biases. There are biases in college football, no doubt, when Herb Street and the committee rate those teams early on. And it's just like, you don't know what we don't even know what we're looking at yet. You have to play the entire season, and that's when all this will decide itself. And that's why college basketball, in my opinion, is better than college football, is because all these issues towards the end of the season, by the last game of the season,
right.
They all solve themselves. Every single problem we're seeing right now will solve themselves. UC, could they be in right now? 100%. Could they be out? Sure. But if UC has 9 games left, you go 7-2, you go 5-4, and the remaining 9, they're in. No question about it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I don't agree with you on that. I mean, I've watched their games. UC is, I mean, it's not even debatable. They're one of the best 64, 68 teams in the. I don't even think anybody would disagree with that. They are. No school has had more NCAA tournament success outside of winning the whole shooting match, which they haven't done yet, with all the talent known to man, is Gonzaga. I mean, for the last 20 years,
they're on the bubble.
They have been the titan of college basketball. You see, for a team, again, that has not won it.
But, I mean,
they're number 1, they're number 2, they're number – I mean, every year. They're Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, championship games, whatever it might be. They're kicking everybody's tail until the big one. But you look at this team this year. Now, right now, they are in the tournament. And this is getting when you're talking about blue bloods and this kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Gonzaga, I mean, if you're just talking about name recognition, their best win this year was UCLA, and they're not any good.
Correct.
Syracuse, they're not any good, okay? They did beat San Diego, but that's not San Diego State, okay? They have lost every good team that they have played this year. Purdue got drilled by double digits. Washington, who, all right, they lost to them. They lose to UConn by double digits, right? Now that's the number 1 team in the country. They lost to San Diego State. Played the national championship game last year by double figures, 14 games. They play Santa Clara, who I guess I'm told is pretty good. And they play St. Mary's, who, again, I guess I'm told is pretty good. Both St. Mary's and Santa Clara are in the NCAA tournament according to this bracketology. I mean, are all 3 of them, including Gonzaga. What in the world has Gonzaga done compared to UC?
They haven't.
And I'm not ignoring X here, but X doesn't have that win.
Correct.
Okay? UC's beaten some top 25 schools, whether you think they're in the top 25 or not. Okay? But, I mean, are you kidding me?
Gonzaga at this very moment.
Santa Clara?
Gonzaga's played 5 quad 1 games. Their record in those 5 quad 1 games, 0-5.
0-5.
Cincinnati, they've played 7 quad 1 games. They at least have 2 wins. Not a great quad 1
Not
record,
great.
but they're 2-5 in those quad 1 games.
With a chance for a lot more.
Correct. Like every road game in the Big 12 is a quad 1. And then most home games are going to be quad 1s. I asked the question, and I know that when you look at these tournaments, they try to make it as objective as possible, right? They try to go by quad 1s, quad 2s, what's your net ranking, all those things. But when you talk about perception and stuff like this, obviously UC has a pretty prominent basketball brand. I mean, it's not to the same level as a Gonzaga. It used to be bigger, but I asked the question if some of the bias of UC hasn't had success recently, right? They haven't been to the tournament since what? 2018, 2019, something like that.
And even when they get in, it hasn't exactly been a success story.
Right. I mean, they've been to one Sweet 16 in 20 plus years. So like I'm just saying, as of late, they haven't been a tournament team. So I wonder if they're fighting that hill, climbing that hill of trying to prove to them, trying to prove to the country, hey, UC basketball is back. We're not just competing in these games. We deserve to be a tournament team. I wonder if they're uphill battling that too.
They might be. I mean, I'm just sitting here going through St. Mary's. Now, that's a team that Xavier beat earlier this
Xavier's
year
best win,
by 17 points. That's way back in December. Now, they're on a big, long winning streak right now, but look who against. Pacific. They did beat Gonzaga. Santa Clara. Loyola Marymount. Pacific. San Francisco. Portland. San Diego, Kent State. They lost to something called Missouri State. And this is a team that right now, according to some, is ahead of UC or Xavier or others, Texas.
St. Mary's has played the same amount of quad 1 games as UC. They're 4-3. UC's 2-5. So, like, when it comes to these big games, according to the metrics that they use when it comes to the net stuff, like St. Mary's has been more than adequate there.
Well, but again, I hear what you're saying because they're road games, but it's road games against who is what I'm saying. Okay, they can be a quad 1.
That is a fair point.
I mean, because look, they lost to Weber State. They lost by 25 against San Diego State. They lost by 17 to Xavier. They get blown out of the gym by Boise State. So I guess some of these games, the Santa Claras of the world, whoever it might be, they go on the road. It's quad 1, San Diego. Okay, fine. But, that's even where those quad 1 things is. They're going to put them up on the screen when they're talking about tournament resume, right? But they never tell you, and the quad 1 wins were at Portland, San Diego, and San Francisco, as opposed to, fill in the blank. TCU, Houston, whatever.
That's actually a fair point because they try to make this as objective as possible, right? They try to go, hey, if you play a team at home that's 30 or better, that's a quad 1 win in the net ranking. And if you go on the road and it's 75 or better, that's a quad 1 ranking. But as we know, Tom, a road game at Santa Clara isn't the same atmosphere as a road game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse.
No.
That's right.
So that's why you could try to make it as objective as possible. There's always going to be those things in it. Winning on the road in the Big 12 is not the same as winning on the road in the WCC. Winning on the road in the Big 12 is not the same as winning on the road in the Mountain West Conference. That is absolutely true. And you'll just never solve those problems, right? You'll just never be able to
you're not.
Make it as objective as possible in degree of difficulty and strength of schedule.
That's where how do they determine? Help me here. How do they determine what is technically a quad? In other words, why would winning at St. Mary's, be as even though it's technically quad 1, why would that be anywhere close to as impressive as winning at, don't say Kansas because they're a top 5 team. Let's take them out of the mix.
Okay.
But let's say a win at TCU or a win at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
UC has those games on the road coming up.
So quad 1 it goes by your net ranking, which you can find on NCAA net ranking. And it is if you are playing a home game against any team that is 30 or better, that's a quad 1 game. If you're playing a road game against anybody that's 75 or better, that's a quad 1 game. So, like I said, every road game in the Big 12 is a quad 1. Mm-hmm. That's not the same. So that's where the advantage of playing in the Big 12 comes out. Yeah, it's a tougher road game because the atmosphere is a little tougher. There's going to be more fans. The arenas are bigger, all those things. But you get more opportunities. You get more cracks at it.
Yes, you do.
Because every single road game is essentially a quad one game. Maybe like Oklahoma State isn't a quad one game.
There's like 3 of them, 4 of them.
Okay. So, but most home games, almost all away games, there are quad ones. So that's the simple math. But as we just alluded to, they're not all created equal. A road game going to playing at, as I mentioned, Fog Allen Fieldhouse, toughest place to play in the country, isn't the same as playing a road game at Santa Clara, although they are both technically quad one wins. So
true. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that. Which gets us to, by the way, I want to shift gears real quick because I know you guys covered it a lot yesterday. So if you covered it a lot, just tell me, and we don't have to do this again, about the whole thing at Dartmouth.
We talked about it a little bit. But I think it would be fun to hear your thoughts on it.
So you got the National Labor Relations Board, I believe, is who came down with this.
Correct.
Okay. So basically, what their job is to make peace between companies, corporations, and employees, whether they be unionized employees, whatever. Primarily, yes, and they can be a mediator at times like this, so on and so forth. That's their job. All right, is to have peace and everybody get along, and no strikes and no lockouts and all the rest of this kind of thing. Okay, they've even got involved in the baseball work stoppage before to try and navigate through those waters. Okay, so there was a time. And let's take out of this mix, just for the sake of argument, let's take out of this mix were some teams paying players in college athletics when they weren't supposed to be paying them. Okay, we knew it went on. It still goes on. Okay, legal or not legal. But let's take that part of it out for a second. It used to be that being given a 4-year scholarship, or actually you get 5 years to play 4. Okay, a school will honor and give you a full scholarship. Let's use men's basketball as the example. Okay, however many scholarships they have, 15. 15 dudes are getting their entire college education paid for, their room and board paid for. They even got a stipend. That was legal, even before NIL and all this kind of thing. They would get some living expenses money because there would be some kids who would come from really rough backgrounds, very impoverished backgrounds that couldn't even go on a date in college. And they're just like, we can't have this going on here. I mean, we got to be able to give these kids something to be able to do. And so they figured out a way to make it happen. Well, now we have had this explosion after, I think Northwestern was the original school that filed this first lawsuit, which basically has led to NIL as we know it now.
Correct.
Okay, where the courts have said, all right, you got to pay these guys. Okay. Now, there are no ground rules, really, at the end of the day for all of this. I mean, they can say they are, but we've already learned, and Patino, we'll get back to him in a second, but he had made the point as recently as this past weekend after the game against UConn that between the transfer portal, the NIL, we've seen Nick Saban walk away from the sport. We've heard Kirk Ferentz at Iowa given serious consideration about walking away from the sport. Jim Harbaugh is leaving to go to the NFL. And a big reason why, and according to Patino, is because it's the wild, wild west out there in college sports. There really is no governing body because every time the NCAA tries to do something, even as something like a 2-time transfer, which UC was affected by that this year. They'll issue a decision, and then the next thing you know, the Attorney General in Ohio is filing a lawsuit against the NCAA to have the players at one of his schools in the state, Bandego, and then later Jameel Reynolds, reinstated. Well, the same thing has just recently happened with Attorney Generals in Tennessee and Virginia. Similar kind of stuff. All right, now when you get the Labor Relations Board involved, now you are talking about something that falls under a totally different set of circumstances. Primarily the one being this. Dartmouth's players are now considered employees, okay? And for a university, Dartmouth is not a public university. It's a private school. But they are employees now, as rendered by the National Labor Relations Board. So now all of a sudden, with that being true in this scenario, now the players have a right to negotiate how much they work. There are rules in the NCAA where you can be at Ohio State football, you can be at Kentucky basketball, you can be wherever. There are rules that say you can only have these kids practice or work X number of hours a week. And it makes the coaches crazy. But these same coaches are going crazy about the players getting paid. So we've gone in really about 4 years, to a scholarship for college, which most Americans have a very hard time affording, taking loans to pay for college, kids taking loans to pay for college. We have gone from that being more than enough to players getting paid, to the possibility of recruiting players and offering them money to come play for you, to now the possibility of the kids being able to dictate work conditions. That's coming a long way, brother, in a short amount of time.
It is. And listen, there's going to be a lot of people out there that lament the change that is happening to college athletics. And there is serious concerns about amateur status. If they're getting paid from the school, they're no longer amateurs. How does the NCAA navigate these waters? But I think we can, at least I would say, that the players having say in conditions is undoubtedly a great thing, right? Like we said, always the argument before players got paid from NIL was, listen, when Johnny Manziel was at Texas A&M, he was worth millions and millions of dollars in his name, image, and likeness.
Which he took full advantage of against the rules.
Correct. But now you don't. The fact that you had to circumnavigate the rules and do cheating, you had to cheat and break rules just to get value out of your work, just to get compensated for what you are worth, was inherently wrong.
Yep.
If they're selling Johnny Manziel jerseys, I know Manziel wasn't on the back, but they're selling jerseys with his number, then every kid in the stadium is wearing a Johnny Manziel jersey. So he deserves to get paid. We all know that all students aren't bringing in money, right? Like if you are on the Yale fencing team, you're not bringing in a whole lot of money to the school, and you're probably not going to be valued. Now the precedent has been set, and we talked about this at length yesterday. The precedent has been set that if you are a college athlete, you're an employee of the school. You're working hours for the school. That's the precedent that sets down not for just Division I college football, not just Division I college basketball. That's the precedent that's going to be set across all of college athletics. That means that kids that go to a D2 Tiffin University can essentially say, hey, I'm an employee of the school. Did you see what the precedent that was set by the National Labor Relations Board? Said Dartmouth basketball, they're employees of the school. I play football for Tiffin University. Go Dragons. I should deserve to get paid. What does this mean for all athletics across college? I don't know.
I don't either. But what I do know is that, Patino then throws out last night a term we have never heard as it pertains to college sports, and that is salary cap. Can you imagine? But, it's going to be so interesting to see, okay, if you want to agree with all of that, and I'm no lawyer. I don't even try to play one on television. But if you're going to go down that road, and let's just define one of these students as an employee. Well, if that's true, according to the National Labor Relations Board, and ultimately let's say that's true across the country in college athletics, now doesn't the price of education have to account for that salary cap? You can't all of a sudden just say, hey, you want money, you being the kid, okay? You
Right.
can't say you want control over working conditions, and then throw out as part of your compensation like it doesn't mean anything. Like, I mean, you can't do that on your taxes, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, each of these kids is being given X amount of dollars that would otherwise you would be charged for to go to college, your college education. Correct?
What you're going to see is if that's the course that we're going down, which it appears so. And like I said, I'm more than pro that players, if they are worth money, they should get paid what they're worth. But you're going to see schools not offering sports. You're going to see, if they have to pay the players to play, what they're going to say is, and Elliot brought this up yesterday, I thought it was a beautiful point, is you're going to say, like, listen, if you're gonna say that you're an employee of the school to play women's soccer here at the University of Cincinnati, we're not offering anymore. We'll have a club team, we'll have facilities, and what you're gonna see is these schools are gonna be club teams. They're just gonna say, hey, you're not school sponsored sports anymore because we don't want to pay you as employees, because we can't, because you don't bring any money to the school. And instead of jacking up tuition to $70,000 for in-state tuition to go to the University of Cincinnati, we're just going to say, hey, sorry, we're just not going to offer swim anymore. We're not going to offer all these schools. You're going to see schools taking away sports.
And that's where I think, like, it's what would be the point of the NCAA at this point, Tom? What's their job at this point? To assign the rules? But the rules that they have in place aren't in tune with the times. So whatever the NCAA is doing, sure, it's important for what they're doing for the women's swimming team, the men's volleyball team.
Right.
But for the big money makers, college basketball and college football, they're essentially useless. It's nonsense. You have to get rid of it, right? I mean, that's the only thing that I can. Because if everybody's going to be an employee, then they're just going to follow. And this is what I had a question about this with Reid yesterday. Who assigns the punishments now? Because if let's say the Dartmouth basketball team does something wrong, are they still buying? Is that team still under the thumb of the NCAA, or are they a thumb under the school?
Well, I think it's the way it sets up right now. They are. I think. But we got a lot of smart people in this chat, man, that are bringing up some really interesting points. Harrow, wouldn't the college be required to offer benefits to the students if they're an employee? So the same thing as you're the guy who cleans the English building every night, right? You're the custodian. You go there because it's a solid job. You're working for the government in public school cases, right? You get some kind of compensation in terms of a pension, but you also get your medical and dental and all that kind of thing to provide for your family. That's a great point, okay? Then Colton says, well, don't count college funds for these players. Where else are they going to go? The pro leagues are in bed with the NCAA in agreement, both football and basketball, that you can't go pro after X amount of time.
That's right.
You can't jump from high school to the NBA anymore. You used to be able to do it. You can't do it anymore. In football, you got to be in school for 3 years. You may not play 3 years, but you got to be in school for 3 years. I mean, these are fantastic points. And I tell you, there are a lot more. I mean, and then the last one being from Nick Kirby, which is spot on, is that, to your point, Reid, is that here you had all this stuff going on at the University of Arizona. They're $200 million in the hole, right? Their athletic department is $200 million in the hole. And now they are bailing on the lesser, if you will, sports. Left and right.
It's their expenses, right? And it used to be that like your big money making sports would pay for those expenses. Ohio State football pays for all the athletics at Ohio State. Now they are going to have to start playing their players. Well, they're not going to bring in that much more money from football, so you got to start cutting expenses on the back end, and that's going to be sports. I brought up this, and as silly as this sounds, there are a lot of small schools that I went to play college athletics at. It's in NCAA. That is like Bluffton University, Mount St. Joe University, Thomas More. A large majority of their model as a school is say, hey, we are going to offer a haven for these kids to keep our enrollment numbers up. We're going to offer a haven for these kids to continue their athletic careers. Like 70% of Bluffton's enrollment are athletes. I think only like 1,200 kids go there. I think there's like 800 kids that are athletes. So their model is, hey, we're going to get as many kids to come in, play football, play basketball, play baseball, play whatever. And that's going to keep our enrollment numbers up. Well, if the precedent has now been set that if you play college athletics, you work 40 hours, you do all these things to be an athlete, you're now an employee of the school, and therefore you have to pay these players. These small schools can't offer that. They straight up can't do that anymore. So
I don't know if the big can anymore.
If they can't, if you don't know if they can, the small schools can't. So what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, I don't know. Like, we can't have these sports anymore because now we got to pay these kids. What happens to these small schools? Are you going to see like Division III schools, which are a major part of this country?
Absolutely.
There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Division III schools. There's dozens here in the state of Ohio. Are they going to start disappearing because they can't offer athletics, therefore their enrollment plummets, therefore the school has to close down? Well, these are unforeseen consequences of a decision that I think we knew was a long time coming, but the NCAA wasn't ready for. Colleges weren't ready for.
I don't think it. Do we see athletes becoming employees coming? I don't think I saw that one coming. I knew they were going to get paid, and right. Reid is correct. They should be paid. But I thought the whole point of the NIL was that outside people will pay, all the donors, all the boosters. They will bring their money into a pot, and that money will go to everybody else. It's an easy end around. And Jack put in a good question in the chat too, Tom. At what point, if we're just hiring employees, why would we not hire a 30-year-old employee?
Well, that's where I was going, because if all of a sudden you have this going on, and that's a great point. I was thinking the same thing. Just thanks for pointing that out. Is that technically, if they are now employees of your university, any school, doesn't matter. Why couldn't you go hire a 28-year-old playing in the G League to come play basketball? And the reason some might say, well, they don't have any eligibility left. Well, they're no longer conceivably. The argument is going to be made sooner or later that if you're an employee, you don't have to fall under these eligibility rules set by some governing body. You're an employee that can be hired by any university to do anything at any time, athletically.
How would you feel, Tom? You sit down. I want to paint a picture for you. You sit down. It's November. You just had a lovely Thanksgiving break. You get on Saturday. And, of course, there's a big game that plays on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And you sit down on your sofa with your family to watch your beloved Ohio State Buckeyes. And outrunning from the opposite tunnel is number 12, Tom Brady. Because now they're pros, right? There's no eligibility status.
Somebody's got to save Michigan.
47-year-old Tom Brady out there to get it done for Michigan.
I mean, you can say that stuff tongue-in-cheek and laugh about it, but it's true. It's true. Jack Butler says it right there. There'd be no eligibility. It'd be no different than playing overseas or playing in the minor leagues.
So this is where there is chaos, and we are heading into a moment where there's going to be some chaos, because now that this precedent has been set, there's going to be a mad dash for all this speculation, everything we're doing. This gives the NCAA, which we have heavily criticized, not just on this show, but of course across sports media, as a toothless organization, as someone who really doesn't have a grip on what they're supposed to be doing, which is governing college athletics. They have an opportunity to at least gain some control over this, because there's going to be a mad dash for new rules and new regulations, to where the NCAA, they could step down and they could be a leader here and go, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fight against this. This makes sense legally. If you want to be an employee, they have an opportunity to get new powers. The NCAA does, throughout the midst of the chaos that is ahead of college athletics.
So you're sitting here talking about, let's say, Ohio State. Sean Connor brings this up, okay? Ohio State is by far the number one revenue-generating university from an athletic standpoint in the United States. I mean, last year, $252 million generated by Ohio State University athletics under the direction of one Gene Smith. Their expenses, so $252, their expenses were $226. Now, that's a pretty nice little payday, right? Okay. You're looking at $27 million there, okay, in as a surplus. What does that look like next year when your women's volleyball team, your women's basketball team, your men's basketball team, your men's football team, your men's lacrosse team, your track and field team, men and women, your field hockey team, men and women. And Ohio State's ranked in the top 20 in all of these. Doesn't matter if they're in the top 20 or not, but they are. So they put a lot of money and a lot of money behind these other sports. Well, now all of a sudden, you're going out to play Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA. Okay? You know where I'm going here. Mm-hmm. How fast does that $25 million start getting? You can say, well, yeah, they got these TV contracts. Well, they do have these TV contracts and for a pile of money. But they've got a pile of money now. But the expenses, it seems to me, are about to go through the roof.
No doubt. No doubt. They've got a whole new roster of employees.
If this isn't the rule of the land yet.
Correct.
Right.
I think the NCAA is going to fight this pretty hard, maybe taking this to like Supreme Court or something like that.
They have to.
Because National Labor Relations Board, they're high up there, but no one's higher in the land when it comes to legal rulings than obviously the Supreme Court. So it might go up there. Congress for a long time now has fought against this, or the NCAA has fought in Congress for a long time to keep this from happening. It's going to be interesting. One thing that's going to be you brought up the Rick Pitino stuff talking about salary cap. If that's in the future and they give Division I football schools a salary cap, in theory, they would all be able to spend the same amount of money, right? Like they would all have a similar salary cap. You're telling me Ohio State football is granted the same amount of money to pay their employees, pay their players as North Texas?
Well, no, Pitino added in that conversation, he said, you've got the big boys. He said, I can't speak for everybody else, but when he was talking specifically about basketball and talking about pretty much the Power 5 conferences that really have big TV deals. Okay. Actually, it's down to Power 4, truth be told, now with basically the elimination of the Pac-12, where you've got the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12. And in basketball, anyway, Big East. But they're not the revenue generators because there's no football that the other ones have, nor do they have the expenses of football.
Okay.
So that's what he's talking about. I just think and Lord knows I am nowhere close to having the intelligence level to figure this thing out. It's a mess.
It is a mess.
It's a mess. And it all started, and nobody has a problem with it, but it all started with the education wasn't good enough, that the universities were making money off these young athletes. Why can't they get paid? I mean, what is the cost of an education? I can tell you what the cost of an education. I'm paying for 2 of them right now. And a lot of you know. I mean, man, you better be socking money in that 529 plan like a week after they're born. Because the insanity of the cost of a college education. Now, look, if your kid is in state, and that's what most people have to do, and you go to Miami, you get some scholarship money here, need, base, whatever it might be, you're getting some incredible value for an education, but you're still reaching deep in that wallet. Deep in that wallet.
And that's the thing when all of this conversation arose, like before NIL came along, that was always the argument is their payment is their education. And for 99.8% of athletes in college athletics, if you were getting a scholarship, that's more than enough.
Absolutely.
Payment. That's more than enough, right? You're getting to go to school for free. I know people that played Division I college athletics not because they wanted to, but because they had to.
That's right.
I know
some of those kids.
There was a girl that I went to college or went to high school with that wanted no part of playing Division I athletics, but she got a scholarship to play. Her parents said, "Listen, you're playing. I know you don't want to. You got to play. If you
want to go to college,
right? Yeah, that's your 2 options, right? You can go to college or not. You can go to Miami Hamilton here in town, which is a fantastic.
Yep.
But if you want to go and have that college experience, you're going to play college soccer. I'm sorry about it. But It's hard to argue the other way, though. I mean, like I said, I brought up the names like Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, all these names that were giant brands for the sports. Those guys were worth money. They deserve to be paid money. It's just now we are left with the rubble of the decisions that, these kids deserve to be paid. And now what's going to happen to college athletics?
Well, and then you bring in, Lord knows, these things, the wheels just keep turning because you're thinking about all of these other legislative decisions, whether they be with the federal government in a Title IX case, okay, which was supposed to give women, right, the chance to compete and be treated the same way as the men. Does that mean that the swimmer at UC is going to be, a female swimmer at UC is going to be treated the same as the quarterback at Ohio State? Of course not. But they're going to get the same stuff as far as their education. They're going to get a stipend. They're going to get all these kinds of things that at least is a base level. But man, you had a lot of women that fought. And today is National Women's Sports Day. Today. And what a day to have it in this conversation we're talking about now. Because all of a sudden, if you're the parent of a young woman and you're an athlete, and think of all the things that you could be facing on this very day. You're competing in some cases against what used to be a man. And now all of a sudden, how fair is that across the board? Anybody who has ever had, and look, you can be the most uber liberal person in the world. I would love to find 10 people who have a daughter that competes in athletics that believes it is fair or sane to have that girl's dreams to go do X, Y, and Z and all of a sudden have to compete against a man. Okay, you got that going on. Then you have now this possibility of their employees, are we going to go to the club sports and no longer offer these scholarships to these young women who have busted their tail since they were 5 years old in a swimming pool or a soccer field or lacrosse field or whatever it might be? I don't know, man. I don't know. I just... And anybody who's ever had a daughter that plays sports, if you've never had a daughter that plays sports, or maybe a sister or something like that, an easy thing to do is, it's women's sports. Well, when you get a daughter that plays it, you don't look at it so much like that anymore because they are out for blood just like the dudes are. And they're playing their tail off, and they're showing up for practice every single day, and they are giving it everything they got. They deserve better. And I just don't know if these kinds of rulings ultimately, where it's going to lead if you want to keep employees of universities, are you able to maintain eligibility rules? Are you able to maintain Title IX? I don't know. I don't know.
Tom, on National Women's Sports Day, who's the best women athlete of all time?
Best what?
On National Women's Sports Day, who do you think is the greatest woman athlete of all time?
Greatest woman athlete of all time. Boy.
Serena?
Serena's my pick.
She'd have to be right there, for sure. Right. Although, you know what? Everybody talks about a lot of her career numbers and that kind of thing. I tell you what, man, and you guys aren't old enough to remember, Martina Navratilova. She was a far more dominant force in the big ones, if you will. Now, doesn't Martina have more titles than Serena Williams?
Women's tennis titles. We're putting all that.
I don't think so. I think Serena has all of them, doesn't she?
I thought majors she did not. That's what I'm talking about. I thought there were people like, who's the other one I'm forgetting? Australian.
Margaret
Court.
Margaret Court has the most.
Yes, I knew she had the most.
She has 24. Serena Williams has 23. Martina has 18.
Okay.
The German Steffi
Graf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is 22.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, look, and then you can get into some of the
Simone Biles is up there for
no
for
doubt.
gymnastics.
You could get into
Ledecky?
some of the sprinters through the years, right?
Yep. Katie
Jones,
Ledecky.
what's her name?
Oh no, I forget her name.
Remember the one that's been in the last number of Olympics?
Katie Ledecky, the
Katie
swimmer.
Ledecky, yeah.
She sets records.
Oh, and no doubt.
She's
no doubt.
She's fantastic.
No
Who was
doubt.
the golfer? Famous woman golfer. Sorry.
All right. Anyway.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, Jolly says it's Paige Sporanic.
No, it's not. It's not her. It's not her.
Okay. All right. We have anything else we got to
Monica
get to here
Sorenstam.
today? Anything else happening?
Nope. No other programming notes other than we're going to box lunch after this. There's no night. There's no content coming out later this evening, other than our YouTube videos clipping up from today. But yeah, no other
Okay.
shows today.
All right. We got some. I'm stringing some other ones in here. Any other suggestions I might be missing? Babe Dickerson, you're talking along. Danica Patrick. I mean, she's done Billie Jean King, done phenomenal things.
Annika Sorenstam
Yeah.
was the one I was
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Female
So
golfer.
there's a lot of great ones.
Billie Jean
lot
King.
of great
We
ones.
didn't mention Billie Jean King.
Yeah.
Yep.
Muhammad Ali's daughter was a pretty famous boxer, right? Or at one point.
Was she? I don't know that.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, she,
Yes.
she was pretty good. Ronda
Yes, she was.
Rousey and women's UFC, stuff like that. So, yeah. Oh, who's the, famous basketball player from the 90s? Leslie.
Oh yeah. She does all the stuff on TV now, I think. Right?
Women's basketball. Man,
Well, I tell you what,
Lisa
and this Caitlin
Leslie.
Clark,
Lisa
man.
Leslie.
Lisa Leslie. This Caitlin Clark is she's pretty
legit.
amazing too. Pretty amazing what she's got going on. All right, time for box. We have a cherry on top or no today?
No cherry
Nope.
on top.
No cherry on top. Okay. Then we got boxed lunch with the boys. Casey, Lindsay, have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, boys, well done.
We'll
have a
see you,
good day.
Tom.
Boxed lunch, and that means Wednesday it is Reed's day. I mean, it is Elliot's day to host.
You almost had it. And
I
it
did. I
is.
was looking at you.
Got a 30%
It is
shot.
Elliot's day to host. So Boxed lunch, here we go, begins right now.